In 3 weeks, the NFL draft takes place, April 28th through the 30th. So why not visit with Duke Tobin? So in free agency and in the draft, I mean, obviously you have to fit your needs. A player has to fit your culture. You don't want any surprises from anybody in terms of, character and all of those sort of things. You definitely want to know what you're getting. And you've done that in free agency. And now with the draft, you've gone through the combine process. You've gone through on-campus pro days, which I guess they're both valuable, but how different is the value of combine as opposed to pro day?
I think the number one value is always the tape and the school visit during the fall. When you're talking to sources that know these guys, and when you're trusting your eyes to see how he's actually playing. So that's the number one. And then you get pieces filled in. You can confirm kind of what you see on tape, or if you don't confirm what you see on tape, you go back into the tape and see if you saw it wrong. But the number one thing has always been the tape and the sources that we've developed over the years at the schools to find out about how this player interacts with his teammates, how he interacts with the community, what kind of personality does he have, how much love does he have for the game, why is he doing it? Is it just for what the game brings him, or is it because of the competitive nature of the game? And so we try to find out all those key questions that we really want to know. And then we go to the tape, and hopefully the measurables and the pro days and the combine confirm what we see on tape. It doesn't always happen. We'll go back to the tape, make sure we see it that way. And when it comes time to make a decision, we'll lean towards the tape instead of a pro day or a combine. But it's nice to be around the guys. You get a better feel for their personality, and I like that.
So what's the most ridiculous pro day or combine workout you've ever witnessed? I mean, was there anything that was like, are you kidding me? Because I mean, every year there's a bunch of freaks that go out there and put up numbers that are just almost unbelievable. Is there any one that comes to mind where you were like, I can't believe that?
I don't know that I've got a great example on the top of my head. Anymore you expect the top level guys to test well,
Right.
You expect guys to run 4.4s and then high 4.3s. You just expect that. It doesn't override what we see on the tape. And so sometimes a guy will have a great combine performance or pro day, and what you've seen on the tape doesn't match. You're less excited about it. And you're like, well, I thought he might do that, but that's not how he plays. And then the ones that do the great performance and play really well, those are the guys that are gone really early in the draft. And so we try not to get too high and low on their underwear football numbers. But I don't have one off the top of my head this year that I think there were some great performances at the combine in terms of numbers, running and jumping and, being tall and being long. The guy at UTSA, the corner, I think he had quite a combine workout. So, there are examples, but I'm not great on pulling one out.
Yeah, that corner from UTSA, the 6'4" kid that ran like a 4.2 something and had a vertical of over 42 inches. It's like, what?
That'll get people's attention. That'll get people's attention. Send them back to the tape.
Yeah. There's no question about that. So you watch tape, you go to the combine, you go to the pro days, and then you start bringing guys, to Cincinnati for the follow-up process, I guess, as such, or maybe guys that weren't, that might have fallen through the cracks of the combine and pro days or whatever that you might want to visit with and take a look at. Is that what's going on now? That evaluation process?
Yeah, we get to bring 30 guys in, and we try to have a balanced approach there with guys who were invited to the combine versus guys who were not invited to the combine. There's a number of players every year that aren't invited to the combine that we have some regard for based on our fall scouting. And so we want to get those guys in the building, and we want to meet with them, and two, we want to get the medical on them to make sure that they're able to handle what the NFL is going to offer them. And so it's big to get as many medicals on the guys that are not invited to the combine as we can. And of the 30 visits, sometimes we break it down to about half non-combine, half combine. And then we use the other visits to get to know some guys maybe that we would just maybe have a question on or want to talk to more, see how they view football more, or for whatever reason. But there's a lot of different reasons we would bring a guy in, medical included.
So after all that process is complete, you guys, do all the cross-checking and conversations and all that. Everything's out on the table with respect to scouts, coaches, everybody involved. That's when you start to assemble your board. And how soon before the draft do you start that board assembly process?
Well, we keep a board year round,
Right.
by position. That's what our scouts do from May till this point. And we'll have a board for next year starting in May. And so we always have a board. I'll try to put together the final board probably a week before the draft, after we have all of our positional meetings, our coaches meetings, and probably 4 to 5 days before the draft, I'll have the board that we're going to be working off of pretty much set.
So how many different boards? I mean, different teams, I guess, do it different ways, obviously, but is there a board that ranks by position, guys 1 through however many by specific position, then a big board that rates, here's the top 150 players, doesn't matter what position, here's our top 150 players. Do you do it multiple ways, or is it just one final big board?
You can look at it a lot of different ways. Technology is great this time of year, so you can sort it however you want to sort it. I look at it by groupings of players by their grades by us, and so I'll look at it as a listing of third round type talents overall by position groupings. And so when our pick comes up, then we start coming down to this guy over this guy over this guy. For our first pick, we'll have 31 guys ranked 1 through 31, and probably go beyond that. We'll probably go 5 or 6 players beyond that. And a lot of times you'll end up, when you're picking high in the draft, you'll end up getting a couple guys off your initial ranking list. And then from the rest of the draft, I like to look at it by position, by ability. And so I'll have groupings of players by position of like ability. And so I don't ever want to really go down a column in ability to grab a position. I want to stay in the column until that column is gone before I move to the next column. And so that's kind of how my mind works with the draft is that if you're picking in the third round, you don't want to leave that third round column just to go get a certain position if there are guys there that are better players at a different position. And so that's kind of how my mind works. Hopefully your needs line up within that column, within that group of like players.
So you're basically saying, I'm going to trust all the work we did. I'm trusting my board. We didn't do all this for nothing. I'm not going to vacate all this evaluation we've done just to reach for a guy at a position that really, is contrary to what we've done all year from an evaluation process. You guys stay very true to your board. You listen to your board basically, right?
Well, we listen to our scouts who put the most work into this, and
Right.
they spend all year doing this, and it's important, and they're talented, and there's
Right.
a reason that that they're here because they have talent and they have a feel for it, and this is what their life work is, and so that's important to us. It's not anybody can say, well, wouldn't it be nice to have this position? Yes, but wouldn't it be better to have this player who's a much better player at a different position? And I think long term, that's the better way to go. You never know where your needs are going to be. You're 1 or 2 injuries away from having a need at that position anyway, and so you can't predict that. So if all things are equal, we try to fill in our depth chart the best we can.
I guess that leads to the next question. I mean, from a roster depth standpoint, you have to feel pretty good about how this team has developed in terms of, one to pick a number. I mean, the roster depth is pretty darn strong for this organization right now.
Yeah, and it's something you've always got to work on. We feel good about our starters just about at every position. Where the challenge is getting guys who can come in and play at a level that where your team doesn't drop off if you have to have them come in and play. And so we feel good about a lot of those guys, but we think we've got some need in certain key areas that we need more comfort, more reserves that are ready to come in and play at a high level if the starting level guys go down. So we're certainly not done. We certainly feel like we have need, but it's nice to be able to say, okay, we've got 22 starters we feel good about. Now let's see what else we can get done, and I think that's where we are.
I was listening to Sirius NFL radio the other day, and Bill Polian was on, who I admire and respect greatly, and he was talking about trading down, and he was questioned about that, and he said, let me tell you something. My experiences have been that when you trade down, 85% of the time, if I was trading down for one guy, 85% of the time that guy was gone. So he said, you better have 2 or 3 guys that you would feel comfortable with if you decide you're going to trade down. And I was kind of shocked. Boy, 85%. Wow, that's a significant number. I mean, are you in concert with that? Is it like never trade down for one specific guy because you can really get burned?
You could easily get burned if you only have one guy you like, and you're trading down 2 spots. Guess what? You might not get them, and so you always have to have a number of players that you'd be comfortable with. You can have them ordered. You could have your favorites, but you'd have to have a comfort level with a number of players, 4, 5, 6 players, and then it all depends on how far you're trading down. Sometimes you trade down far enough to where you're into a whole different column of players, and you've got to be willing to do that. And the compensation has to be good enough. Or maybe you would trade down because you're out of a certain column of players, and you're going to be down in the next column anyway. So let's trade down and get some value. But that doesn't come together a lot. Where you have a trade partner and there's nobody left that you really like.
Right.
At that particular position. But that's kind of the perfect scenario. If that situation arises, it would be something you'd think hard about doing.
Boy, so tell you, trading, there's no surefire trade. That's for darn sure. None of this is an exact science. There's absolutely no question about that. But boy, you've hit back-to-back drafts out of the ballpark. I mean, there's no question about it. And free agency. I mean, you have to feel pretty good about the work that your group has done. Like you said, you have some talented people that are evaluating. And how do you divide responsibilities up in terms of evaluation of NFL players and then evaluation of college players? Is it totally separate, or is there a whole bunch of crossover? How do you handle that aspect of it, Duke?
It's always been multi-level with us. Our guys don't just do college or just do pro. I don't believe in that. I think if you were just assigned college players only, and that's all you ever looked at, you would have no real true idea what it took to play in the NFL and what's actually playing in the NFL. And if you only looked at NFL players, you would have no ability to understand what's coming into the league and what the young players look like in the college game. So I've never believed in that. Our guys do both. I have guys that organize one side or another and are in charge of that side, but they do both. Our guys do both. We have nobody that just does one or the other.
Well, 3 weeks. 3 weeks from tonight, the draft starts. 3 days. It's an extravaganza. It has turned into a must-see TV and must-listen to radio and must follow in some way, shape, or form. The NFL draft is it's almost
that
like
must be the case, because I guess there's a reason we're picking at midnight. You know, most of us that are doing it wouldn't choose that, but maybe there's a good reason.
Yeah, there's no question about it. No question about it. Duke, I want to thank you, congratulate you on all successes that you have achieved personally and your whole group has achieved collectively, and the success that the team had going to Super Bowl 56 was a lot of fun and a heck of a run. And man, can't wait to see the product coming up this year, man.
Well, Lap, I appreciate all the kind words, and I appreciate you, as you know, and you do a great job as well, and always fun to be on with you. Even though it's a busy time, and I'm probably a little more distracted than normal, but some people probably call me distracted all the time. Who knows?
I'll tell you that I can't tell you how much I appreciate you carving time for us, because I do know that it's a busy time. I know that, man, not enough hours in the day for you these last few weeks before the draft. Appreciate it, sir.
Yeah. Thanks, Lap. We'll see you.
Thank you. Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.